Good evening. This is Rob Bell, and this is the Agents for Change Network, where we always keep it real. Uh, I'm your host, and this is another one of our episodes where we talk about how we can make some effective change in the black community and what we do to need to move forward in doing so. The Agents for Change Network was started by my brother Scott Bell and myself, and it was our idea, and it is our idea to provide information to the black community, and it's our mission to promote upward mobility and come up with strategies for the members of the community to help us move forward and help us combat the social ills that exist in our community. Um, We've been doing the Agents for Change Network for probably about almost 2 months now, and it's been a fairly successful format. And one of the things that I introduced earlier in some of the earlier shows was bringing a guest to the show to get their opinion on some of the things that we talk about. I think, it's nice to just have two minds instead of one and give our audience an opportunity to kind of get a feel of what people are, where people are, and how they feel about how we can make these improvements in our community. The most recent theme has been this violence issue. The issue of violence has been on the uptick in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's definitely been on an uptick in Philadelphia, PA. And of course, I'm a native of Philadelphia, and I've been here for going on 5 years now. In the city that I come from, the homicide rate is close to 360 already, and they have 499 all of last year, and they'll probably shatter that record this year. Down here in Atlanta, the shootings and the homicide rate is starting to get a little crazy, and although we are a fairly mid-sized city, the violence is just overwhelming, not just in the quote unquote hood. It's starting to take place in some of our more affluent neighborhoods, and that is starting to raise some concerns about what's going on with some of our public officials. Today, I want to introduce our guest, and this is a brother, man. Listen, we used to work together, and every morning we had this little thing we call powwow. And him and I would get together after our roll calls in the morning, and we would powwow together and just talk about all of what we're probably going to getting ready to get into right now, but so many other things that exist in the area that we worked in, and more importantly, in the community that we live in. He's a brother that I have developed a kindred spirit with, a great friendship. We're both HBCU guys. We talk about that. That is our heritage, and we're so proud of that. And we learned respectively at the universities that we attended, and brought back all of that to our communities. And I'm glad to call this man one of my brothers. His name is Frazier Bolton. So I call him Frey. What's up, Frey?
Welcome and thank you, Rob, for having me on your show. It's an honor and a pleasure. And um, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to do this, and hopefully we can continue to do this collaboration as a whole, so we can get to the bottom of some of the things that we see collectively amongst our cities and amongst the places that we dwell.
Absolutely. Frey, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Well, I'm a native of Atlanta, Georgia, in a suburb area of Decatur where I grew up. Shortly after high school, I moved to Jackson, Mississippi, where I attended Jackson State University, and had the pleasure, honor of seeing what true life was about, being around affluent African Americans, men and women, and more so professors and doctors that uh, taught and helped mold who I am today. It's something that we rarely hear about when you think about HBCUs and the contributions that professors and associate professors, and uh, the impact they had on our lives to give us a different perspective and to give us a mindset of thinking outside the box. So I don't want to ever shed light on the importance of higher education and the HBCU collective. Uh, it is something that if you have an opportunity for your children to do it, please let them have that experience. And we're proof of what it takes to be come from that background and our lifestyle and how we taking that and trying to take things to a different level in our communities. Furthermore, as Mr. Robert Bell stated, we worked together for over 4 years, and it was a pleasure and an honor working with him. And it gave us an opportunity to the unique thing about our conversations were they were in real time. And not only were they in real time, we were able to go out and see things in real time and discuss it and try to come up with strategic ways to make situations better. And that's something that we never took for granted. And so uh, it's an honor and pleasure to be here. And hopefully tonight, someone out there can get a collective of what we were about to discuss, and it could touch upon your hearts that you join the movement.
Yeah. What I loved about our relationship, what I loved about our relationship, Frey, is the fact that we both come from a law enforcement background, and we, because of that, have had an opportunity to be on both sides of that fence. Being black men growing up in black communities and coming from
Absolutely.
strong black families, and then at the same time being on the other side of it from a law enforcement perspective, and not so much on a head bashing, we the police, we gonna get you kind of vibe, but more so on how do we bridge the gap between the black community and law enforcement so that we can help squash some of these social ills
Absolutely.
that exist. And so, again, what you just talked about was we had an opportunity to talk about that in real time. But the great part about that was we were constantly trying to figure out some solutions as to how we can squash some of this stuff. So we just didn't talk about it. We tried to be about it as much as we could on a daily basis. And so that was one of the premises and the reasons why I wanted to kind of bring you in here on the show and give other folk an opportunity to kind of hear, get into your head a little bit about, what this whole thing is all about. Now, two brothers, man. I grew up in Philadelphia. You grew up down here in Atlanta. If you could, man, can you just give us your perspective of what you think is happening down here in the ATL with regards to this issue of violence, in particular, Fred, with these young brothers that are out here?
Absolutely. This is my personal opinion, and it's based on facts, and it's based on, like we just said, real time experiences, as well as speaking with some of the youth in the community. Uh, what we have in Atlanta, and I'm the focus on Atlanta right now, being that that's where I live, and this is what I understand most about the interactions of politics. Uh, we have a female black mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who has been in the rings upwards for 4 years. And her primary concern coming into office was crime, but it wasn't in the sense of crime fighting. It was in the sense of uh, her mindset was basically to eradicate petty crimes. Petty crimes is anything less misdemeanor, 0 to 6 months in prison or city jail. Her first move was to eradicate most of the city ordinances that filled up the city jails, and in hopes of showing America that institution using a correctional institution to jail people was not the way. But what happened was, as time progressed in her tenure, you had this unexpected shift in crime because what happened is when you do not address things at the lower level, they tend to migrate into more substantial uh, crimes being put on your citizens. And so, because you have a lack of fear as a petty criminal, all you do is you push the goalposts back, and now they give them more room to do more aggressive crimes. So, as take case in point, you have someone that's always known for just shoplifting. Okay, there's no repercussions for being shoplifting anymore. Okay, let me go strong arm robbery.
Right.
Okay, now it's a little bit personal because now you're attacking a individual instead of uh, a store or gas station or what have you.
Right.
And then it goes from strong arm robbery to, oh, I broke into this house and now I got a gun. Now you got armed robbery,
Right.
and so it's like a domino effect, and it's unfortunate because it has gotten to a point where when you have zero fear of repercussions, then it gives you a sense of just lawlessness.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Frazier, that you bring that perspective to it because I really never thought about it from the levels in which you just described in terms of and I've been here, so I lived that. When they were saying, well, if a person shoplifts, it's no big deal. Let them pretty much go with that. And and you and I know in the mindset of a criminal, he or she says to themselves, "Oh, you gonna let me fly with that? Well, let me try something else. Let me try breaking into
Exactly.
somebody's house, or let me
Exactly.
try robbing somebody personally. Because if you let me go with that, you might let me go with this." And so now you create, like you said, this sense of lawlessness amongst the young people in the community. And you and I know that when one group of folk get it in their head that they can get away with something, then it's just like a cancer. And it just permeates itself throughout the entire community. And,
Exactly.
when we start to think about, well, where did all this crime come from? That's exactly what happened. So that's a different perspective in terms of how we should be looking at it. And it's like almost now we done let the horse out the barn and we can't pull him back in.
Can't pull it back in. And this is no knock on Keith Lance Bottoms. This is just a observation of seeing this in real time, working downtown, working in the heart of the city, and seeing the deterioration happen in real time, which I think you and me both, and some of our colleagues saw.
Right.
The level of disrespect that came along with these actions being taken with these individuals. And again, we're talking about individuals in a collective sense. And also, and you add the incident that happened in Minnesota, uh, it almost became this type of uh, fortified effort to f the police,
Right.
literally and figuratively.
Right. Right.
And so you have to deal with that mindset of people not even fearing the police department. And honestly, and there has to be a level of fear there because that's what keeps some kind of means of having the world and having your society and your city safe, knowing that hey, if I cross this line, there's a price to pay.
It's a consequence. Yeah.
It's a
It's a
consequence.
consequence. And if you don't fear any consequence for your actions, then that makes you like a wounded animal, man. You're a very difficult person to kind of control, for lack of a better word. And see
Exactly.
what people don't realize is that from a law enforcement perspective, nobody really wants to control you. Nobody really wants to beat you down to the fact that they violate your civil and your human rights. But at the same time, there has to be a level of fear amongst the public when it comes to, because you and I talk about this all the time. When it's all said and done, y'all can talk about this defund the police stuff all you want. When it's all said and done, when you're getting the crap beat out of you, or somebody's breaking in your house or breaking in your car, what you gonna do? Call 911. That's what you're gonna do.
Instinctively. instinctively call 911.
instinctively, because that's what you've always done. And the expectation is somebody's going to get to you and save the day. And so now when you're talking about taking that away from people and putting the onus on community members to police themselves, that's a recipe for disaster, bro.
And it's a recipe for disaster for one reason. And this is something that they don't speak about. Because guess what? If you do that, there is where's the accountability at?
Right,
There's no accountability for people thinking they can self police themselves without any kind of governmental guideline to go by. Every police department in the United States of America have a basic training that give you a guideline to adhere
right,
to prevent you from going outside.
right.
And every police department in the United States of America have a hierarchy of police that can strip you of your certification if you violate those particular oaths and acts. So there are tools and there are things in place for police officers. It doesn't get spoke on, but a lot of officers go through that process, and they go through the process of going through the board. That's the Georgia Board of Corrections. I'm not. I'm sorry, the Georgia Board of Police Officers. They have to verify your actions to verify whether or not you can keep your credentials as a police officer.
That's right.
And so that's something. But again, what that does, it gives that last line of, okay, I got to be mindful of crossing the line because I can lose my way of life if I cross this line.
Yeah, and you talking about somebody that has put time in, man. Say 20 years, and you got a pension coming to you, and at any given moment, man, you can lose that, and your livelihood and all the time that you've put in to take care of yourself and your family goes right down the drain. And so,
And
you know,
quiet is kept, brother Roger. I mean, could across you, but that's ultimately police officers' biggest fear. No
that's right.
one is trying to lose
Nobody's
what
trying.
they work for.
That's right. And see, people don't believe that. They think, and I used to always say this to people, and we talked about this. Nobody gets up in the morning, bro, saying I want to kill somebody today.
No one.
Nobody gets up in the morning and say, I want to kill a black man today because I'm a racist police. Nobody gets up in the morning and does that. The obvious piece to this is, of course, we do have some police officers that are racist police officers, but when you look at the sheer numbers of police officers in this country, the overwhelming majority of these guys out here are out there, man, just trying to make a living and take care of their families and be involved in a career, not a job, a career that
A
they've chosen
career,
for
exactly. It's a
themselves
difference.
in order
It's a
for them
difference.
to at this point in their lives lay back a little bit. I was 22 years old when I first became a police officer. I'm 64 now, and I'm reaping the benefits of now having and being able to kind of live a certain lifestyle now based on all the time that I put in working law enforcement, and at the same time not violating anybody's civil or human rights, not treating people like crap. But the whole time, my whole spirit that I bring to the table now in terms of my activist thing, I did it as a police officer. Was it welcome? Not all the time. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it wasn't. But
Exactly.
it's just who I am as a person. Um, Frey, talk about. We used to always talk about foundation and families. Talk about the importance of that with regards to what these young people are missing.
And this is probably the biggest issue. We're going to go ahead and just, take the elephant out the room. And we're going to be honest, the main issue with inner city young men is the lack of a stable home.
Right.
It came out during COVID in 2020. It came out that most of these children, and I'm speaking strictly of the city of Atlanta because this was a point. Most of these young children, the only meal they got was at school.
That's crazy, man.
And I want you to think about that. It's unfathomable in my walks, and I'm thankful to be in a career, to have the careers I've had and police, law enforcement, and working with Robert Bell with the Ambassador Force, and now with the federal government. I'm thankful that I can do this for my family and take care of my children. But COVID exposed the city of Atlanta as a whole, as a society that's failing.
Yeah.
When you have children, elementary to grade school, all the way to high school, that the only time they had a meal was at school, and it's almost unfathomable to think about that in 2020.
Yeah. I've always said, man, that as adults, we have failed our children, man.
Yes,
We can
we
sit
have.
back and point the finger at everybody else, the school, the society, the police. We can point the finger at everybody else, but when it's all said and done, man, we have failed our children. There was a time in our community where our children were our most important asset, man, and we did what we had to do to make sure that they were always in good shape. I know my parents, especially my mother, she went without, man, for years to make sure my brother and I had what we needed to move forward and be successful. There was no such thing as walking out her house in the morning to go to school without a hot meal. And I lived up in the north, so it was cold in the wintertime.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
wasn't
yes,
we
sir.
wasn't
Yes,
eating
sir.
corn. We wasn't eating
And
cornflakes,
and
man.
again, this is something that I'm going ahead and just piggyback on as well with that. What we're seeing is you go back into the late 90s and the early 2000s, all these teenage pregnancies that was going on, these young girls having babies, and they're still babies,
Right.
raising these. And so this is a residual effect. What we're seeing is some of the residual effect, and I'm not saying as a collective, but some of the residual effect are babies raising babies, and this is what we're getting, not having that true foundation
Exactly.
of family, uh, not having the foundation of accountability within the home, not having the foundation of structure in the home is a direct result on top of everything else with the increase in violence. Because again, if you're not being taught how to act, how to react, how to be a productive citizen, and you're raising yourself, then it goes right back to what we said earlier. There are no guidelines, and you have no guidelines, and so lawlessness is being bred at a very, very early age.
Yeah. Talk to me about how much you think the crack epidemic took a toll and is still taking a toll on our community.
The crack, and this is another thing. I'm glad you said that because now you have a residual effect of all of these mental disorders. A lot of these young children are undiagnosed, have mental disorders
Yes.
that's being undiagnosed because of them being born of a mother or parents that were heavily into crack cocaine uh, and raising these children coming to the world at a severe disadvantage.
Yes.
Not
At a
only they coming to
severe
the world,
disadvantage. Yeah.
severe disadvantage. You have a parent that is not capable of securing and taking care of this child, and this child have birth defects. Sometimes they can come out looking perfect, but mentally they're unstable.
Right.
They have no sense of right or wrong
Right.
because right or wrong was never put into their face as an option. They just do.
That's crazy.
The I don't give a F mindset is real with some of these young men. That's how they feel. They don't give a flip
Yeah.
about nothing.
Yeah. I've talked to young people, man, and when they're like 14, I talked to a 14-year-old guy a couple of months ago, and he clearly told me, he said, "Let me tell you something, old head. There ain't really a whole lot you can tell me, man." He said, "Because I pretty much been raising myself all my life. And
All their
and
life.
all I know how to do is what I do. I appreciate you trying to talk to me, and I appreciate you trying to school me." He said, "But I'm gonna have a hard time trying to change who I am." And so we're talking, 14, 15, 16-year-old young brothers out there and sisters that have no clue, like you said, in terms of how to do, have any reasonable deduction skills, have any coping skills, have any skills to, be able to de-escalate situations, because all they know is the way we solve things is through violence, because that's all we know
Period.
and that's all we see.
Period.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
So
crazy.
listen, man, we running up on time, and I always give people kind of the, if you had your magic wand and you could change some things. I mean, what would be one of the things that you would change, sir?
Number one, I'm gonna start again. The children are our future, and it starts with the young people that's coming up behind us. Financially speaking, the resources that the city of Atlanta has and how they're being appropriated is not in line with raising successful adults. Now, you got certain pockets in the city where it's not an issue, but we're talking about the true inner city, heart of the city. The city of Atlanta has always been at the bottom when it comes to education. Resource. And if the children are going to school and seeing that they don't have the necessary resources and it's not being pushed into them, I'm thankful that the high school I went to pushed us going to college, and we took pride in keeping our grades up to go
Right,
to college because
right,
it was a rite of passage.
right.
These children have to have that. And our parents, my parents, and the community got behind my high school. And no one wanted to fail. Of
Yeah,
course, you had your little handful of knuckleheads, but from a collective, everybody, our school, Southwest DeKalb, which I graduated from, was a school of excellence for
yeah,
a number of years under the late Dr. Turner,
yeah.
Dr. Gil Turner. And we took pride of being a school of excellence. But that needs to be across the board. It doesn't have to. I mean, we were a predominantly black school in South DeKalb, just outside of Atlanta, about 10 miles outside of Atlanta. Uh, but our community took pride in being great in academics, great in sports, great in the arts. We had one of the best high school marching bands of all time. So all these things, you have to give children something to strive for,
Yeah, man.
and the resources have to be there so they can strive to be great.
Right. So, excuse me. We got a new mayor coming in, and obviously Keisha is not running again. What is your expectation of whoever wins this race?
The number
What
one
would you like
thing,
to see them do?
the number one thing is take the city back. Take the city back. Let the police police. The police, if your leaders are coming with a narrative as police are the enemy, then you don't stand a chance to have a successful, thriving community. And the city of Atlanta is thriving. Don't get it twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Their buildings going up everywhere, every
Sure
which
is.
way.
Sure is.
Hopefully, the next conversation we can, me we can got we have a number of topics, but we can talk about gentrification.
Right.
And what a push that is, and
Yeah.
how that's going to affect the African American community
Yeah.
as a
That's a whole
collective.
nother show. That's a whole nother
That's
show.
a whole other show.
Yes,
But
sir.
right now, it's already being noticed that crime is number one, and it's unfortunate. I'm going ahead. I'm gonna leave it with this. And I'm not a man to mince my words. It's unfortunate it took an incident in a affluent part of the city
Right.
for it to be a problem.
Right.
That in itself is a problem, and
That
that
in
in
itself
itself
is a
is a whole
problem.
nother show.
Yep. And I spoke on that on one of my shows, and I said the exact same thing. How come it had to take an incident like that to now all of a sudden raise the eyebrows and say, "Oh, we got a crime problem"? Oh, really? We've been had a crime problem,
We've been had
but
a crime problem.
but because the crime problem didn't affect certain aspects of certain communities, it was
Exactly.
kind of looked at in from a different direction. And so now, all of a sudden, we got a crime problem that substantiated bringing the Federal Bureau of Investigation in to help solve this crime. Well, what happened to all the other crimes that are occurring down in other areas that need to be solved in the same way? And it's unfortunate. And again,
It's unfortunate.
that's
A
another
whole nother
show
show.
for another time. We could
And
talk about
we
this
can
for
do a
hours, bro.
series. Yes, we can do a series.
Yeah,
Of things that we can discuss. And again, our whole goal is acknowledging the problem, uh, discussing the problem, and trying to find a solution.
right.
So everybody out there who's listening to this, if you really want to contribute to this, reach out to Rob Bell. Reach out to him, and let's get a forum going, and let's really, really put things in action. I'm 100% on board. Whatever I got to do to if nothing else, be a voice. Because sometimes we may not reach everybody, as long as we reach somebody.
Yeah. Well,
Let's
Frazier,
start there.
I got a goal and I got some things that I'm working on, and you're gonna be one of the first guys that I call and talk to because I know you're gonna be on board with what we're trying to do. Hey, man, listen, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, man. I know you have a family. I know you work, but you taking some time out your schedule just says to me that it's one of the reasons why we are so close in terms of being friends, and it's one of the reasons why brothers like yourself can make some effective change in our community, and that's what the Agents for Change is really all about. So I see you as an agent for change, sir. So once again,
Well, I
thank you
thank you,
so
brother.
much.
No, I thank you, Rob. And again, anytime, bro, you need me to come on, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to working with you, and I'm looking forward to helping our communities.
All right,
I'm
thank you,
right there
Frazier,
with you, and
man.
I thank you. And I thank your guests and all your people that listen to your show. I appreciate you for taking time out to listen to Agent for Change. This is a change.
Thank you,
Thank you
man.
all.
Hey, give your family a hug for me, man, and we'll
I
we'll
sure
see
will,
each other
brother.
soon.
And tell Mrs. Bell I say hello.
I will do that, brother.
All right.
Okay, have
Thank
a
you.
good night, sir.
Have a good night. Thank you.
All right.
And then
That was my guest, Frazier Bolton. Again, a good friend of mine. We had some great conversation here tonight, as him and I have always had. We're going to close out this episode of the Agents for Change. I'm Rob Bell. I am the number one agent for change. Don't forget that if you like this format, to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure that you press the like button on the YouTube channel. When we send it to our Facebook page, make sure you press the like button on Facebook. And as Frazier mentioned, man, get on board. Because I got some things that I'm working on because I just don't want to talk about it. I want to be about it. And when I start to unlash and unleash some of the things I want to do in terms of making some effective change, I need you. I need all of y'all. So come on, get on the stick, and let's make some effective change. Again, I'm Rob Bell. Have a great night.